Welcome in to the New Orleans Saints podcast, hosted by Erin Summers and John DeShazier. You'll hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and writers who cover the team on a daily basis. The New Orleans Saints podcast starts right now. Here's your hosts, Erin Summers and John DeShazier.
Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. I'm Erin Summers. Quick news of the day. Wide receiver Chris Olave was elevated to a full participant in practice on Friday. However, head coach Dennis Allen did say that he still needs to pass one more test in order to get out of concussion protocol and be good to go on Sunday. Defensive end Cameron Jordan also listed as questionable heading into the weekend. However, DA said that they would wait until the last second to try to get Cam on the field, as Cam definitely wants to play, so he'll be a game-time decision. Already listed as out for this one is linebacker Pete Werner, safety Marcus May, wide receiver Rashid Shaheed, and running back Kendre Miller.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's the nature of our league, though, so we got a good team coming in here. We get an opportunity in front of the home crowd. We're excited about the opportunity, and we're going to go out and give it our best effort and, feel confident in our football team.
And it will be a big test for the Saints as they look to bounce back from last weekend and get a W in the Superdome back at home Sunday, 12 o'clock against the Detroit Lions. Joining John DeShazier and myself on the podcast today is former Saints offensive lineman and current offensive line assistant coach Jahri Evans. Evans was named one of 25 semifinalists for the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2024 on Tuesday. Evans played 11 seasons for the Saints. He was a right guard, and he was really good. This is the second straight year that Evans has been named a semifinalist, and he's already in the Saints Hall of Fame, being inducted in 2020. Let's bring in Coach Evans. Jahri, thank you so much for joining us on the New Orleans Saints podcast. It's great to have you again. We can talk about some of the accolades that you have acquired over your playing career, but your coaching, how has that been going for you this year?
It's going great. I'm very appreciative of the opportunity that, DA and Pete have given me to join the staff here, and trying to teach these guys a lot of the tricks of the trade that I was taught growing up as a player, and, hopefully they can transition into the field.
I know that it's been a lot, this season up and down, but from the line standpoint, the improvement has been great. Did you see that kind of click?
I think early on we struggled with, just with Trevor in there, him being injured last year. He didn't get a lot of reps and practice at it, and him, being in the starting role this year, he was struggling a little bit. And I think after we made that switch, guys got a little bit more confident. We got guys healthy because we had a period where guys were injured. We lost guys in some games late where guys were injured. But, as of late, I think the guys have been playing well. They've been gelling together. And DC kind of took a little bit of time, too, being new to the fold. So, I think, we're going to hopefully go on a little run here at the end of the season and start this Sunday.
All right, we've kind of buried the lead a little bit here as you've recently been announced as a semifinalist for the Hall of Fame. Second time now, second straight year.
Yep.
Is it any different the second time around?
Yeah, a little bit. I think I know more about the process. Jeff's been doing a great job educating me on the process, and I've talked to a couple other writers across the country in other areas that's been really pushing, and it's been a lot of support. I think people are more familiar with it as well. The more information we put out there with it, but it's awesome. I'm just enjoying the journey, and like I said, I can't get out there and play no more, so the hard work is already done, and the facts are in the film. But it's good to revisit those times in the games.
Got to circle back to the coaching for a second.
Yeah.
Because most great players, of which you are not very good coaches. Yep. Because you can't coach a guy to do what you did.
It's fact.
So do you look at it and say, okay, I've got to kind of not necessarily lessen my expectations, but deal with what the reality is of these guys can't do what I did?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, there is proof that shows that a lot of the greats maybe didn't have as much success as coaching as they did as a player. But I think that there are some greats that actually, succeeded as coaching as well. But I understand what you're saying. I think, and that's something that I'm learning, is the expectation of the player not just physically, but also, retaining information schematically with different schemes, athletic ability. The thing about O-line that's great is you got 5 different guys that maybe 5 different body types, 5 different sizes. So you kind of learn how to work with what that player has and what he does best. And that's what you try to, mainly bring out a player. I think in the trenches there's different ways to block up defensive linemen, and I think you see it throughout the league. So that's something I just tell myself is I always try to coach guys to be the best player they can be. Just like, Doug always coached me hard and made sure even if I got the block done, my technique may have not been correct, but that's still a minus because your technique was wrong. So just being hard on the player and never stop coaching them and always working them to strive for perfection in their technique, I think you'll get the best out of the player.
Now I'm going to give Jahri probably a little post-traumatic stress on this one. So rewind to 2006, Millsaps College, the training camp, which was probably in my eyes the most brutal training camp I've ever witnessed myself. You're a rookie.
Yes.
What were you thinking at Millsaps? Did you think you were going to even stay in the NFL? I mean, did you think you were going to make it at training camp?
Yeah. It was never a time during my career, even early in my career, where I thought that, I didn't want to play anymore, or this was it, or I wasn't going to make it. So even as a rookie, training camp was hard, but, it wasn't my first training camp. And I wanted to be in the NFL, and I wanted to be a good player, a great player. So I worked hard at it. I went in there and did things the right way. I made sure I listened, I learned. Stayed on top of my body maintenance, and I wanted to play. I was nothing that was going to back me down from playing in the NFL unless it was an injury. And some people may notice, but even like early in my career, I only played 2 years of high school ball because my senior year of high school I didn't play. And then I redshirted in college, so it was for 2 years where I didn't play, and I missed football. I didn't play football until the 9th grade, and then when I was hurt, I didn't play for 2 years. So it was, football was the game that I always loved. So I never looked at it like I'm not going to make it or anything like that. I always said if I work hard and put my best foot forward, I'll be okay.
Now, we mentioned Hall of Fame semifinalist.
Mm-hmm.
You have a chance to be with the immortals of the sport if you get that gold jacket and you go into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Have you thought about the depth of it, or is it kind of overwhelming?
No, I don't think it's not overwhelming. It's something I strive for. I think if you look throughout my career, you'll hear me say things like, I want to be the best player. I want to, be on this pedestal. I definitely work towards it. If you talk to all my trainers that I work with, the work we put in the off season, we call it the lab. The work we put in the lab in the off season, it was prepared to go out there and be the best and be dominant, and we played that way. Inside our huddle, if you talk to guys on the O-line, the way we, talked with each other and saying like, hey, this guy's not going to have any stats today. We took that approach to the game. We encouraged each other to be the best player. So, it's not overwhelming. It's actually great. It's something I strive for, and it's come, and we'll see if I can get in sooner or later.
At what point during your Saints career did you realize, or did you kind of look in the mirror and say to yourself, look, I'm the best in the world at what I'm doing right now? Because, obviously you have guys, you have 2 guards on every team in the league, and you were the guy who everybody consensus believed was the best to do it at the time.
Yeah, it didn't start from the beginning, and me and Coach Doug, we talk about it. It wasn't always great. Technique was bad, and he was out there struggling and just wrestling guys and just not giving up. But I think, having Doug first to always harp on my technique, and then going when Coach Crone came, him bringing in, Coach Mudd came in to teach us a few things. There was another coach that came in that kind of taught me different techniques. When I start stacking techniques and ways to attack defensive tackles, that's when the confidence in my game kind of grew to another level. And then also just having, great teammates, playmakers. We had a lot of playmakers, the guys that made plays, that made everybody look good. But, when I start learning different techniques, different angles in my pass game set and things of that nature, and also, learning the insides and outs of protections, know when I have a running back running through the A gap or a fullback running through the B gap, and able to take certain chances and sets. You see, I start really shutting people down. And that's where the confidence grew, and just had to keep duplicating that and keep working on it and adding things to my game each year.
Other than Willie Roof, you are the most decorated offensive lineman in franchise history.
Yeah.
Do you kind of look at those resumes together and say, you know what? Okay, that's a Hall of Fame resume, and this one is too.
Yeah. You're exactly right, man. You're exactly right. I was actually talking to Willie yesterday. And Willie is great, man. What he did here in New Orleans and in Kansas City as well at the left tackle position, man, he's definitely one of the great ones. But you're exactly right. I think you see two different types of comparison, the run game with Willie on the edge and Kansas City and New Orleans, Priest Holmes and all those yards. And then you see the pocket passing game at the interior guard position with us and Drew and the guys that we have with the screen game. You do see, similar ways to go out there and attack attack defenses in the field. But I do look at them both and say, yeah, those are two Hall of Fame careers right there.
Yeah, when you were here, the Saints averaged over 400 yards a game, 6 yards per play.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at numbers like that, I mean, that's obviously a direct reflection of what you're doing on the line with the guys next to you. But it is, you mentioned it, a team sport.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how much fun was it to play with those guys, that kind of production?
Yeah, that's one of the major highlights of all this is just how much we won, how fun it was to win together. There's a lot of guys that have Hall of Fame careers that just don't win. So that, when they asked the question yesterday, when you're playing and you're racking up these accolades, the most important thing is winning. That's what we all focus on. That's what you're thinking about. But it's fun when you're out there and you just feel unstoppable. You feel unstoppable no matter where you are on the field. Guys are going to focus and dial in and get the job done. You never feel out of a game. That's a great feeling, never feeling out of a game, no matter how many seconds are left on the clock, no matter how many points you're down. When you're clicking like that, you have something special, and we were able to, accomplish that.
Do you have, present company excluded in the locker room, a favorite running back that you played with? And not to look, folks, this ain't like for him shading nobody. Now. This is just, I like this guy. I like all of them, but I like this guy.
Yeah. That's a tricky question, man, because, we even the Super Bowl year, we had some guys running the ball for us, Yeah, I would say Pierre is probably my number one guy, even though Deuce was awesome. He was my first 1,000-yard running back, you know what I mean? Deuce was amazing, just even in the protection game, you know what I mean? Like, Deuce was like, hey, I'm coming through the A gap on this pro. Like, you knew, like, okay, if he's going through the A gap, the only gap I got to protect is the B gap because he's going to have body presence there. And just his knowledge of the game and how he helped the line out early on was awesome. But Pierre, I would say, would be probably my best, guy. And Mark, too, Mark was awesome, but Pierre in the screen game and the run game and how he liked to run up the middle and run wide all the time, it really allowed us to be aggressive. But it's so many. You got Kyrie Robinson, who was just
forget about Kyrie,
baby dinosaur out there. He was just like, running downhill at guys, running people over. Chris Ivory, who also was a real pounder, So it's been a few guys.
Yeah, Kyrie was crazy. Maybe certifiable. He was kind of crazy. Yeah. How much pride does an offensive line take in getting that 1,000-yard rusher? Because every offensive line wants to be that physical run team. I know this team threw the ball a lot, and why wouldn't you if you got Drew Brees and Marcus Colston and Devery and Meach and Lance and those guys? But the run game is really what predicates everything. And so you guys were dominant enough to have 1,000-yard rushes, and even when you didn't, you ran the ball really effectively.
Yeah, I would say. That's what kind of offensive line was kind of built off of. It was a good offensive line if you had a 1,000-yard rusher. Not so much now. It's more yards per carry now. But, that's where you say, hey, we got a 1,000-yard back. You know what I mean? That show like, okay, you got a good offensive line. The league has changed a little bit. You got to protect more now. But that was something that we all strive for. That was number one. Average 4 yards a carry, have 1,000 yards on the ground with the back. And, I played in a college system where we were tops in the country every year in rushing, sometimes averaging 200, 300 yards a game. That's all we really did in the PSAC at Bloomsburg. So, running the ball was very important to me. And, that was really how, offensive linemen kind of showed their value, I think in the historical game of the NFL. Not as much now. They don't value running backs as much, but that's how you got to the Pro Bowl. That's how you got the accolades. And that's how you really showed that you were a good line.
Do you lament some of the changes in the game? Because I saw it like a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week. It was like Tom Brady was like, man, the game ain't what it used to be. Although Tom Brady, every time you breathed on him, he was looking at the officials. But I mean, do you kind of, lament some of the physicality, I guess, being removed or tamped down?
No, not at all. I think the game is still physical. I think that it's great that they want to protect players because I think players are going to play longer, and that's the key to the game. And I don't think I'm not saying the rules change the game. I just think the defenses are. It's a time where the defenses were trying to catch up to the offense production, and you see a smaller linebacker that can cover in the passing game more than those downhill, big 260 linebackers to play the running game. So I don't think the game is changing, or the smaller D tackles that can rush the passer more, but they may give up a little bit in the running game. I just see the defenses having to adjust to the quarterback play of the pass and the receiver play of the pass and the passing game, and now I think offenses and O-line play has to now adjust to the different body types of these pass rushers that are coming and rushing the quarterback more.
All right, take that, Tom.
Yeah.
So there was a time here with the Saints, you were an all-pro right guard. Carl Nix was an all-pro left guard.
Mm-hmm.
Of the two of you, who was the strongest?
Carl was the strongest. Carl was way stronger than me in the weight room. As far as our play and what we did, to me, Carl is the biggest athlete at the guard position that I've played with and seen. I thought for him to be his size,
he was a whole house.
How strong he was and how athletic he was. He was amazing, and he should have played. I wish he would have played longer. I wish he would have stayed here actually. but those battles we had, man, it was awesome. Like me and Carl, we used to bet each other on who would have more pancakes in the game, literally. Like, literally, we would be talking about it like, yo, I bet you I get more than you down. We'd be like, nah. Like, we brought out that competitiveness in each other, and so did the rest of the guys. But we used to really take it personal and really try to punish guys as a duo. But I say that, I maybe had more opportunities in the schemes to showcase a little bit more than Carl being on the right side and what we were doing. He was a great guard, man. Good guard.
He was something else. What was the best Saints offense you played in? Was it the 11 team or?
It was the 09 team, just because we won it. Mm-hmm. You can just the bravado that we had, the tenacity that we had. We were just not going to be denied that year. 11 was awesome. 11 was great. I think that we let one slip away, but when you compare it to a team that just executed every step of the way, no matter what the situation was, you have to go with the 09 team.
Yeah. Were you one of the bellhops at the Super Bowl?
Say again,
Were you one of the bellhops?
The bellhops?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
No. Well, Peyton set it up to where he had some of you guys being bellhops.
I remember that for a little bit. I think I was. Yes, when they showed up, right?
Yeah,
because we were there for
I thought I remembered that. Okay.
We were there early for the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
That's right. We were there early for the Pro Bowl. And he had us meet him because we were there a couple of days early.
Wait. Where did they find the bellhop uniform big enough?
I know. Yeah. No, that was funny. It's good you remember that. I forgot about that. They were getting on us too because we had a couple of days in Miami before they got there. That was a fun time.
You played almost every game. I think you only missed 5 games total.
Yeah, I missed seven here with the Saints and then 2 in Green Bay. So
okay.
Yeah.
So what's the special sauce that you had going on?
Man, that's a good question. I always say that my exercise science bachelor's degree kind of maybe helped me communicate with the trainers a little bit.
Your degree.
I did. And then I think the way I trained, very different. I wasn't really a strong weight room guy. I've never benched 400 pounds. I've never squatted 600 pounds. I wasn't a big weight room guy. We didn't have a strength and conditioning coach in college, so it wasn't something that I trained for in the weight room. In the weight room. I more trained functionally, functional weight training, bands and things like that. And I think that may have kept me, healthy. And then I also just took care of my body. You know, I was a very flexible guy, always stretched, did those things and body maintenance outside of the building. And I was just more conscious of the body positions that I played in on the field and
Sure.
not try to get in vulnerable positions.
So now, is that something more so that you teach now that, hey, it's not necessarily the strength, but, how did you do it with the angles, with the geometry?
Yeah, I have. So when as I've trained guys over the years, those are some of the techniques I do teach with them. I have a 24-hour gym in Philly, so I have a few guys that are actually in the league that's playing, and we would do a lot of BOSU training, a lot of stability training, training the small muscles, the ligaments, the tendons, the attachment muscles. We'll also do our major lifts, our Olympic lifts, but, I'll have those guys train in unstable positions because that's how you play the O-line. You're not always in a stable position. That's something that, I kind of showed the guys along the way.
You started here with Coach Marone, and now you're here coaching next to him.
Yeah.
Is it weird?
No, it's awesome. That's one of the reasons why I reached out, because I just know, he's well experienced. He's been coaching for a long time. He's been from an O-line coach to a head coach at different levels, and he's a smart coach. He's always was a smart coach. He's a teacher. So, I thought that it was a great opportunity to actually learn from him on the coaching side, just like I learned from him as a player side. And I'm learning a lot, breaking down the defensive structures and things of that nature. And from Pete too, and the rest of the coaching staff. These guys have been a part of the system for a very long time.
Sure. I've never asked you about this, but what's your middle name?
Divine.
Where'd that come from?
It came from my father, yeah. Came from my father, Jahri Divine Evans, and Jahri stands for Just as Allah, He Rule Oneself. Came from my dad. I was named from my dad.
So you're going to kind of fulfill this whole divine prophecy. Yeah. You're going to get into the Hall of Fame.
That's right.
Like it's going to happen.
That's right. Yeah.
Have you envisioned what that would be like?
It's definitely going to be a party. It's going to be fun. People's been hitting me up like, hey, I wanna get that ticket to go when you go to Canton. I'm like, I think it's open to the public. I think anybody can go. So it's going to be fun. And I think it being in Ohio is close to PA. It's going to be a big trip. And, you've heard it throughout my career when I was going through that, those dominant years, people were already talking about it. So it's going to be a good time, and I'm excited for it. I'm just, excited for the journey. I didn't big up my play as much as I did as a player, but now since I'm retired and I can't get baptized by a defensive lineman, I may talk more about how great I was. But yeah, it's awesome. I'm enjoying it.
Who was the best defensive lineman you played against?
Man, it's been so many. Like Gerald McCoy was very good at what he did, his get off wide technique, racing up the field. And then Haloti Ngata, him just with his power and how strong he was, he was awesome. But I did play against Brian Young his last year, the Hall of Famer Brian Young. Henderson and Stroud were very big D tackles. So played against a few guys. Played against Sam. Sam Adams had to be probably the biggest guy I blocked my rookie year. But they don't have those big slugs like that.
Yeah, they don't make them
anymore.
like that no more. Make them like that. Sam Adams could not play in today's NFL.
Couldn't move that man. You could not move that man. So, yeah, there's been some good D tackles. I did play against Aaron Donald his rookie year. I did not lose against Aaron Donald, but he's a good player. He's a good player.
Now that you can brag about yourself, what are some of the things that you've been telling people?
So, a few things I tell people is that if you look at the guys that play the position, I think that I'm one of the best guys that were able to do a multitude of things, able to run the ball well, also pull in the run game, pull in the passing game to both sides of the field, and the screen game. I think the screen game kind of separates me from a lot of other guards. And then pulling in the passing game to block the left defensive end, I think separates me from a lot of other guards too. So, I know you got to have the players on the back end to do their job and to be athletes and to get those accolades also. But, I think when you look at that aspect of the game, I can pull in the power game, I can run the zone scheme, I can run the man schemes and the screen game. That's where I think I separate myself.
Now, I know you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm going to knock wood here and all that kind of stuff. But have you kind of outlined a speech or?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've dabbled a little bit. You know,
I mean, when it happens kind of fast, and then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's time.
you know, I've done some public speaking before, and I'm not really a, like write it down kind of guy. I kind of just go with the flow off my head. So I've been telling myself, I'm gonna have to take notes on this one because I know I'm gonna forget some stuff. So I got some notes on my phone over the years and bullet points and things to hit on that I just keep adding to the longer they keep me.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
until I get in.
there's 85 people you got to thank, so you got to get that out of the way.
Exactly. So as long as I thank my wife first, and then my mom, then
everybody else.
and then my coaches, and then it's like, so yeah.
Do they give you a time limit?
I think they normally have been because people have been going for a long time.
Was it last
I don't
year?
know that they do give you a time. Well, maybe they give you a time limit, and people just don't care. So I think it might be that they might say 15, 20 minutes or whatever it is, but I think people just don't care. And I mean, who can cut off that person's moment? So
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I've never seen anybody get cut off.
Right.
I should say
It's
that.
like they start playing music to get you off the stage. Well,
I think they do have I won't go over the top.
yeah. Hopefully these are all things that you find out soon when, you make the 15 and then get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, team is doing a great job, man. All the support and the things that they're putting together to present in front of the Hall of Fame committee. I'm very appreciative of the things that they're bringing up and collecting all the information because it is a process that I think a lot of people don't really understand. I didn't understand it until Jeff kind of put the information out and Sal Powell kind of told me. Yeah, it's big time. I mean, there's so many guys, so many. I don't even know how to I don't think there's ever been 2 offensive linemen to go in the Hall of Fame at one time. I don't think it's ever been 2 guys when I researched it. And, it's hard to pick. You got 5 positions. It's hard to only take one each year.
Sure.
But you want to keep it, you want to keep it at a level where, it's hard to get in. You know what I mean? So I understand that. But you just think about all the old timers who still haven't, gotten in, and then there's another list if they don't get in, so.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if Sam was going to get in, and he got in, last year, year before, so it's a process.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. I remember when Sam went in because I know some of his one son that went to Penn State. We have mutual friends, so I met him over the years, and, that was awesome.
Well, we already know that you look good in gold.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
That part's easy.
I need a gold jacket to match the black jacket. I have a black and gold jacket.
Exactly. Well, hopefully it is coming soon.
Yeah.
Because I know you've meant a lot to this organization, and we're happy to have you coaching as well.
Thank you. I'm definitely glad to be here and glad to be in front of the guys and helping them, reach their goals.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you.
Appreciate Jahri joining us on the podcast. It's great to have him around and in the building helping out with the team. We wish him the best of luck as he awaits that call for the Hall of Fame. If you're in the market for a house with Hancock Whitney's Opportunity Mortgage, you can purchase or refinance a home with as little as $0 down. Call 1-866-994-3164 to check eligibility. Hancock Whitney Bank member FDIC and equal housing lender NMLS number 454781. Thanks for joining us on the Saints podcast. We look forward to seeing you on the pregame show, postgame show from the Superdome this weekend and on NewOrleansSaints.com as the Saints take on the Detroit Lions.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Saints podcast. Join us 3 times per week on NewOrleansSaints.com, the Saints mobile app, or you can download the podcast on iTunes. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Saints podcast.